When I was in grade school in Clearwater, Florida, I looked forward to the maypole dance that was a perennial part of our physical education program. Now, as I look back on that, I'm pretty amazed that even happened. Bless those gym teachers who would fasten those colorful crepe streamers to the pole that was docked in the outdoor asphalt courtyard outside our classrooms. Florida, asphalt, May. I couldn't wait, though, to take my place with my classmates, streamers in hand, and begin the over-under circular dance around the pole, the maypole that would result in a beautifully braided pattern of bright red, yellow, green, and white. As we danced, the weave descended the pole until we could no longer pass over and under each other, and the gym teachers would signal us to stop and reverse our dance so that we unbraided the colorful crepe. Reluctantly, I would release my streamer and retreat to make way for the next classmates to take their turn at the maypole. Yet it was as much fun to watch from a distance as the weave of colors descended the pole and then released again. I don't know why this maypole dance captured my imagination so, but it was one of my better memories of Bel Air Elementary, grades 3 through 6. Perhaps something in my bones resonated with the vestiges of an ancient ritual which my ancestors engaged in celebration of a certain season of their lives. And perhaps in some sense, the maypole dance is symbolic of the weaving and unweaving of our human lifespan, as well as the ever-cycling seasons of birth, growth, fruition, and death. That is the very nature of existence on this planet. Even in the best of circumstances, such a life cycle is not easy. Life can be strife, which is no different for humans than it is for countless other forms of life, flora to fauna. The ovum is fertilized, the seed germinates, and life begins anew. But there is much challenge in going from seed to fruit. The tender seedling must push its way towards the warmth and the light. But in the need to break ground, it also bears the risk of exposure until the sprout becomes a sapling. And if the sapling enjoys a stable environment and grows in girth and height, the young tree might have potential to bear fruit if it escapes disease. And then one day the tree might erupt into sweet, nectar-filled blooms that bring the bees by which the bloom might become fruit. And if tiny apples or oranges or peaches survive a late frost or the insects probe, then it comes to full fruition and falls from the parent tree, its own seeds within, to be consumed by some animal which will excrete those seeds in another place where the circle dance of life begins anew. Begins again with a germinated seedling reaching for the warmth of the sun. In the seed is life. In the seed is all of life as we know it. And therefore, we dance the circle dance of the maypole as people have done all over Europe for centuries. And in ancient times, when people lived with the rhythms of nature much more closely than we do today, this time of year was a joyous occasion. After the long and often lean winter months when food and fuels food and fuel stores ran uncomfortably low, spring was a welcome season. The spring equinox was celebrated, marking the return of the sun and the longer days. The snow melted and the soil warmed. Birds began nesting and hibernating animals awoke. Buds swelled on branches and the first flowers of spring pushed up through the cold ground. The sights and sounds of the land coming alive again were everywhere. And the days that followed brought more greenery and flowers, and by the 1st of May, known in Gaelic cultures as Beltane, I don't know the Gaelic pronunciation of it, Beltane was celebrated as a halfway mark between spring equinox and summer solstice to come. The people of Western Europe were genuinely joyous at the warming sun and greening earth. They celebrated rituals like the maypole, which they erected in the image of a tree, decorating it with a circle of flowers, and they danced around it in joy and gratitude, which, by the way, all are symbols of human recreation and recreation. I grew up in the Southeast, here in Florida, and spent my young adulthood in the Southwest, in Oklahoma and Texas. When I was 40, I moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And the first year we were there, we had 150 inches of snow. And it's the first time in my life I ever went without warm sunshine on my face for 4 months. I had the worst case of SAD you ever saw. And I understood that in this, there's even a difference between Norman Beach and Boca Raton in the climate, right? And I didn't understand those of us who live closer to the equator and see the sun more often, what that meant. And I never understood why people wanted to live seasonally here. But I came full circle to understand. So today we celebrate May Day to remind ourselves that the rhythms of our own lives are attuned to the rhythms of nature, whether or not we are aware. Throughout our lives, we strive perennially for our own fruition, be it in a sense of coming of age, in procreation, or in the sense of our goals and how we live our lives. And when we come together in community, the same patterns emerge, era to era, generation to generation, year to year. Institutionally, we have a birth date. We have a coming of age stage. We grow, live long, and prosper, and eventually we will cease to be, either through dissolution or a change into something else. And I would say not only the congregation was born, so to speak, almost the same year that our Unitarian Universalist Association came to be. And that in that sense, we're in a kind of coming of age stage. We're still trying to figure out who we are or what our fruit will be. Even though we have religious ancestors that go back to the Protestant Reformation, we, as we are now, are relatively new. So let's understand the age and stage we are and live into a little bit of chaos, right? A lot of changes. We're trying to figure it out. both here and in our larger association. We'll bear fruit. Like the young tree, now sufficient in girth and health to ward off disease and drought, it won't be long before we begin to bear fruit, and by our fruits will be known, by our liberal faith, our building of beloved community beyond our walls. May our life cycle from seed to fruit be full of promise and blessings as we celebrate this beautiful, look, the sun came out, this beautiful, bountiful day together. We are about to sing together the hymn, Let It Be a Dance.